Welcome, welcome, welcome once again, everybody. Come on in the room. Welcome to Coach Skills Finance Training. Happy to have everybody tuning in on this morning. Of course, we go live. Yeah, finance training. We go live and we talk about all things financial literacy. And so I'm pretty excited and pumped up about the conversation we are going to have on today, ladies and gentlemen. Get your popcorn ready. Turn me up in your car. Turn me up in your Bluetooth, whatever it is. If you got me on the TV with YouTube, I am live on Facebook and live on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're tuning in to Coach Stills Finance Training. Happy to have everybody in the room. So we're going to get this party started. Many of you that have gotten a chance to see what's going on by tuning in to the updates as they show up, you already know what the conversation is on today. And I'm interested to hear some of your mindsets and logic, and maybe potentially some of the things you may have decided to do with everything going on, not only just in the economy, but in the local state of Georgia where I am located. So I really want to have this conversation to help put things in perspective for everyone and for you to develop your own mindset and logic of why it is important to really have financial discipline in this season. Because I really want you all to see on today how one situation can compile and then another situation happens and the unexpected things come up financially in your life. And if you're not prepared, and here on Coach Stills Finance Training, we talk a lot about preparation. We talk a lot about prevention and putting ourselves in positions of power financially so that we can be successful and prepared in any season. So good morning to you, Timothy Scott. Good morning to you, Tony Sherman. Happy to have you all tuning in to Coach Stills Finance Training and looking forward to getting this party started on today. Of course, as you all look at the title, we're talking about the financial impact of the Georgia fires and how that has affected the local economy, how it affects people personally. But most importantly, I want you all to understand it's not just about the Georgia fires. We can talk about financial impact of natural disasters, financial impact of things that are happening that cause people to have to react fast. These Georgia fires, these things that are going on locally right now, Brantley County, Wayne County, Glenn County, some of Florida, some of these things that are happening that California is used to dealing with every year, now it has impacted us locally and it's had an impact on us financially. How do we respond? How do we prepare? Even though we're talking about Brantley County or Wayne County and surrounding areas, what if it would have continued to go further? Thank God on today, as y'all are tuning in to Coach Stills Finance Training, it is raining real good in South Georgia. So that's a good thing. Of course, many of us have been praying for rain. And so I'm happy and excited that we do have some rain to help fight the fires because man can only do so much. And so we thank God that he's allowed it to rain in this area. But what is the financial impact of these fires? What are some of the things that you all have seen and noticed? So I want to deal with that on today as we're talking about the financial impact of these fires. I got a lot of cool things to share with you all on today, and I'll share some of those cool things towards the tail end of the live. So we understand that there's always going to be some financial literacy takeaways from our lessons here on Coach Stills Finance Training, and we'll get to those at the end as well. But imagine you have your home, your dream, your house, however long. Some of these people have passed down this generational wealth, these homes, to their loved ones. But understand, in Brantley County alone, over 120 homes and buildings have been destroyed. Over 120 homes and buildings have been destroyed, with nearly 1,000 more at risk. And so you have to understand how serious this situation is. And so a lot of families lost their primary homes, they lost personal belongings, they lost vehicles and valuables. Think about that. You need a vehicle to get back and forth to work. You need a home, a house to lay your head down, shelter. And so valuables, things that people have kept for years and years and passed down. And so all of this has a financial impact because, as we're talking about homes, as we're talking about vehicles, and y'all are tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training, what are some things that you need? When we talk about homes and vehicles, and we talk about it on Coach Steele's Finance Training, what is important to have at all times? We always talk about getting wealth. We talk about building wealth. But what is something that you need as you have all of these assets, as you have these wealth building assets, these things that have value to them? What is something that you need to make sure that you have in complement to these assets? There we go. All right, we are in business on today. So in that comment section, what do you think some of the things that you need to complement these assets as you're building wealth in life? When you're talking about potential natural disasters or fires that can come and potentially destroy everything that you've been building up. And you have to understand many people have financially suffered and struggled from this, and there's immediate displacement costs. You have to think about that. Immediate displacement costs. People are no longer able to live where they once lived because it's gone. Timothy Scott says emergency funds. Yep, you have these assets, you have emergency funds, but what else is it that you should have to complement along with these assets and these things that you're buying? List of all assets or things. If you have a house, what are you going to also buy? If you have a car, what are you also going to buy? All these valuable things, what makes sense to have alongside them to complement these expensive items, these valuable items in your life? And these people are going to have long-term rebuilding expenses. Bingo, Tony Sherman hit the nail on the head. Insurance. You want to have insurance. So when we talk about financial impact of these Georgia fires, I hope and pray that each one of those structures, over 120 structures, I hope everyone had insurance. You can live off somewhere far into the country and you kind of off the grid, and let's say your property's been paid for years. I mean, you could have insurance, you can choose not to have insurance, but it makes sense to have insurance. So I hope a lot of these people did get insurance on their houses, insurance on those vehicles, because they will be able to potentially be compensated. And that here on Coach Steele's Finance Training, I want to emphasize that, whether it's your house, whether it's your car or your own personal life, all of these things are valuable. Your life is valuable. Get insurance. I don't want to get into a debate on whether you should get whole life or term. Get insurance. We can debate whether you did the right one or the wrong one afterwards and make adjustments, but don't debate and not get it. I need you to get it and then debate later. And so all of these things are important, and your life is more important than a house or a car or other items. So therefore, make sure you have insurance on yourself as well as those items. Don't have insurance on your house, but not insurance on you. See what I'm saying? All right. Now, of course, they're going to have long-term rebuilding expenses, and there's a loss of generational wealth as far as your home equity. But if you have insurance on that property and your insurance is lined up well with the value of the home or potentially more, then you really don't lose the generational wealth and you don't lose the equity because you'll be paid out. Now, if you are in some of these areas where the Georgia fires were, or locally close by, nearby, within a certain distance, whether it's an hour away or so, it's probably not a good idea to try to increase your insurance right now because the insurance companies aren't going to let you increase your insurance right now until things settle down. Now, when we talk about the financial impact of the Georgia fires, what is something that you think is going to increase in cost now due to these fires that are happening? Do you all think, yes or no, insurance is going to go up? Yes or no in the comment section. Do you believe insurance is going to go up? And so you have to understand rising insurance costs for losing coverage. Homeowners insurance in Georgia has already increased by about 24% in recent years and is expected to keep rising. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Insurance in Georgia has already gone up about 24% in recent years, just without the fire catastrophe that just happened, and is expected to keep going up. The financial impact of these Georgia fires. Well, what if you own multiple homes in Georgia? What if you have multiple investment properties? So not only the insurance on your primary home could potentially go up, but if you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus investment properties, insurance can go up on all of those as well. So it's just something to think about for all of my real estate investors, the financial impact of the Georgia fires. You might not have been impacted by the fire, but you can still be impacted by the residuals, the effects of the fire, the trickle down effect of that fire that happened in Brantley County and other areas. So some insurers are raising premiums significantly, dropping coverage in high risk areas. Even my local church, the insurance almost doubled because of where we are located and things like that. For organizations, churches, insurance has almost like doubled. So just think about that as well. And so there's a lot of financial impact of these Georgia fires. And there's going to be higher monthly expenses, out-of-pocket costs, if uninsured. Imagine if you don't have any insurance and the house burns down, or even the house got fire damage or smoke damage and you don't have any insurance. Oh, you got out-of-pocket costs. Out-of-pocket costs for uninsured. Some homeowners may become uninsurable depending on their situation. And so now you're looking at potentially having increased costs of living and short-term inflation. Things are going to cost you a little bit more because of the fires right now during the emergency. So the state activates price gouging to protect protections due to rising costs. So that's something else that may happen as well. Now, people who are displaced, there's going to be local hotels that are going to fill up because of these fires. And people may have to stay a week, 2 weeks till they figure out where they can go. And this is where it gets interesting here on Coach Steele's Finance Training. And I want to hear your feedback on this. If an emergency happened like this, where would you go? I mean, you still got your regular job that, you may have to leave for a little while, but then eventually you got to go back to work, right? So how do you get back and forth to work if your car was potentially affected or transportation was affected in the fire? But more importantly, where do you stay? If some of you were displaced, where would you stay? Would you stay in a hotel? Would you try to find someone to stay with? Would you just go and buy another house? These are some of the creative thoughts that I'm interested to hear and get feedback from you all as you all are listening. How would you respond? How would this financially impact you, these Georgia fires? Would you be prepared? There's going to be rising costs in gas, rising costs in food. If you're in Brantley County and there's only so much food or surrounding areas, that you have demand is high and supply is low. Housing. If all the hotels are filled up in the county, Now you're looking at potentially having to go outside of the county, and now you got to travel further. There's more gas costs and expenses. Emergency supplies. There's only so many emergency supplies. There's only so many flashlights. There's only so much rope. Whatever it is that you need in an emergency, those are even running low. So now you got to travel further to get a generator or travel further to get whatever it is that you need. So all of these unexpected costs will continue to pop up as people are trying to recover and deal with these Georgia fires. Keep in mind, these fires are still going on right now, and they're trying their best to do fundraisers. They're trying to raise money to help the families that are struggling right now as well. But there is financial impact. Here on Coach Steele's Finance Trading, we talk about preparation. I tell you all, when you prepare properly, it empowers you when you're dealing with situations. We talk about having an emergency fund. And so this is where it gets real, because I talk to you all the time about getting a high yield interest savings account. If you need one, feel free to hit me up and I will send you the link. That way you can open up a high yield interest savings account. But I want you to think about something. Yes, you could leave $10,000 in your house. You could leave $5,000 in your house. You could leave $400 in your house sitting there. But if you're at work or wherever and there's a fire or something, then that money's going to burn. It's uninsured. It's not FDIC insured, and it's definitely not fire insured. So think about that. You want to put that money and funds in a place that's safe, that's best to be at. And so there's nothing wrong with taking those emergency funds and putting them in a high yield interest savings account. Now, I'm not saying don't have any money at the house. I do recommend that you do have a couple $100 at your house in case of an emergency. But let's say there's a hurricane and you're in South Georgia or wherever, or a natural disaster. Sometimes stores don't have electricity and they can only accept cash, and they're not accepting debit cards or credit cards. Having that emergency fund to get you a hotel for the night or whatever the case may be, I do recommend having a couple $100 for cash to hold you over till the lights or electricity or something like that comes back on. But just want you all to keep in mind, don't store a bunch of money at the house when you can put it in a high yield interest savings account and let it grow on your behalf. Of course, here on Coach Steele's Finance Trading, we believe in making your money multitask. And that's something we want you all to put into practice. So everyday essentials for these natural disasters are going to become more and more expensive. And when you're dealing with natural disasters, families may have to dip into their savings or go into debt. But if you create the perfect emergency fund, doing 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund, guess what? You won't have to panic. You won't have to overly worry like the average person. Tony Sherman says, plan for emergency with cash on hand. No plan is you planning to fail. That's exactly it. So you want to have a little cash on hand at all times, just in case, but also have that 3 to 6 months of emergency fund. So if something like this, a fire happens, if you have at least 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund, if your house is going and you had to get an apartment, think about an apartment, you're going to need a down payment and the first month rent. So let's say minimum you around this area, you have to find a place and it's $1,200 a month. Well, you need a down payment, $1,200. Hopefully I didn't say $12,000 a month, but $1,200 a month. You need a down payment for $1,200 and you need that first month's rent. So now you automatically need about $2,400 just getting started. So think about those things as you're building your emergency fund, and if you have those 3 to 6 months of emergency fund. So when you prepare properly, you can be empowered financially. So preparation. That's one thing that we need to think about, and the financial impact of these Georgia fires. And so the fires are not out. It's not over. They're doing a better job of containing it. But guess what? You still need to be in preparation phase, because a fire can happen last month and a fire can potentially happen next year or 6 months from now or 2 months, whatever the case may be. we need to make sure that we are prepared properly. Those are some of the things that I personally had to think. Good morning to you, Shauna Johnson. Happy to have you tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training. We're talking about the financial impact of these Georgia fires. Guys, that's something I had to think about because it got to a point where about 55 minutes away from me, some of the people in my county had to evacuate. And so when this fire is about 55 minutes away from me, I had to start thinking very, very fast because they were talking about how the wind was blowing and pushing the fire, and the fire was moving quicker. Now, here on Coach Steele's Finance Training, I talk about being prepared, making sure that you all are doing the right things so that you can deal with certain emergencies. And I had to make sure that I was on point. I had to make sure that I was prepared for this emergency. What do? You can't stand in front of the house and necessarily stop a fire physically by yourself with a water hose, not of that magnitude. But so what do? And what in your house do you take if you have to? What do you keep? What don't you keep? What do you spend time and energy and effort to take with you? Do you take items from the house and pack it up and put it in a storage? But whatever storage facility in the county that you put it in has potential to burn too. So now you went and spent money on storage monthly, and potentially you could lose everything that you packed up and put in storage. So I'm interested, guys. Like, if you had to react, and like I said, in my situation, if people 50 plus minutes away from you, 55 minutes away from you are having to evacuate, and you got to make some quick decisions, do you spend money on a U-Haul, or do you prepare to spend money to potentially have another place to stay? Those are things that I want you to think about. Because you have an emergency fund, do you spend that money, that emergency fund, on a U-Haul and a storage unit? Or do you spend and calculate, I may have to find another place to stay. We may have to spend more money on food. What are you going to do? What do you pack first? Here on Coach Steele's Finance Training, in that comment section, what would you all pack first? Do you get all your documents, important paperwork? Do you get a couple clothes, some shoes, some basics, your medicine, if you take medicine on doctor's orders, sleep machine? Like, what are you taking with you if something happens? Of course, earlier we talked about making sure you have insurance on things. But what is valuable? What is important? I'm really interested to hear, like, what would be your first reaction? What are you grabbing? What are you taking with you? What are you loading up in the vehicle? Keeping in mind that everyday essentials become more expensive during that natural disaster. Keeping in mind that you have an emergency fund to last you but for so long. It's not like you can come back the next week and rebuild the house. No, you have to find somewhere to stay. And when we talk about the financial impact of the Georgia fires, just understand there's going to be repair and there's going to be recovery costs. Even if a home isn't destroyed, individuals still face smoke damage, roof, structure repairs, land clearing, debris removal. There's still things that have to happen before you can even start rebuilding. Tony Sherman says he would take important paperwork, birth certificate, passport, etc., medication, few clothes. Okay. Shauna said, really don't know until you're faced with the situation. I think it's kind of hard. We say this or that, but would we really know? We don't know, Shauna. And so that's why, I challenge your thought process to start thinking about it now. Like, what would an individual do? I'm with Sherman. I am going to grab some important documents and some clothes. But I don't think I'm going to waste a bunch of time trying to save my living room sofa. I'm not going to save a bunch of time trying to save the dining room table. I don't want to put my energy and effort in that because certain things can just be replaced and it's not going to be that big of a deal. I'm not going to spend time trying to save the living room TV. It's difficult because I do know I need clothes to wear daily. Um, if I have some snacks, maybe I grab some snacks. I grab the water. I think I would grab essentials, like basic essentials, like if there's like deodorant, toothpaste, things that we're going to need regardless. I'm going to grab some of that stuff that's not as expensive. I think I would do some people would grab things that are probably expensive. I'm probably going to just grab essentials that don't cost much at all, but I know that I need them to maintain myself. Everything else is replaceable. Here on Coach Steele's Finance Training, I'm a huge advocate of making sure that you have insurance. So things that are replaced, that need to be replaced, you can. Also, and to reiterate what Shauna said earlier, I do thank God for the rain. It is pouring down in Georgia on today. So let's see what we have. Shauna says, important paperwork, things that's replaceable isn't important, but I agree with clothes, medicine, and hygiene products. Tony Sherman says, must have a plan in place before the situation happens. Think about now and plan. Yes, definitely. And as y'all are tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training, make sure that you all share the live if you can. I appreciate that. I also want to share something pretty cool with you all as well. I do want you all to know that there's going to be recovery costs that come along. Like I told you all, smoke damage, roof structures, repairs, land clearing, debris removal, insurance claims are being processed, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen fast. Some of them, there's going to be delays in insurance claims and coverage gaps can occur. Plus, there may want to go out and see pictures or documentation to verify. So all of that takes time. Thousands in unexpected repair bills, deductibles, and uncovered losses. And so there can potentially be a loss of income and local business disruption. So think about that. Those local businesses, those mom and pop shops, people can't come there and the business, one, may be gone, but two, people may not have enough money to spend right now. So a mom and pop shop can still be open, but not making any money right now. So when we talk about the financial impact of those Georgia fires, some of those businesses are going to struggle for the next couple of months till people get back on their feet because some people just don't have the money to spend right now. Tony Sherman says FEMA is slow in processing claims. So think about all of that stuff. So there's a lot of people that are going to need some help right now. Business disruption, evacuations and fire zones shut down, small businesses, farms, agriculture, local jobs. Can you imagine the fact that somebody who had a farm out there and all of a sudden everything that you've been putting money into, fertilizer, watering, and hiring workers, and all of a sudden a fire comes through and the crop that you wanted to produce to make money off of is just burned? How do you recoup from that? There's a lot of financial impact that happens, and that's why we have to be prepared and have contingencies in place. When we talk about farmers and agriculture in America, all of this ties back into the petrodollar and what is going on with Iran. A lot of the fertilizer that farmers use is tied up in all of that mess. So they were already struggling to make ends meet. Farmers were already struggling to be profitable right now. And so this can have another huge impact on them. People are going to miss work. They could potentially lose their job. If a building is burned up in a fire and the company no longer exists temporarily, then people are going to lose their jobs or reduce income for families. Slower economic recovery in affected areas. So those are some things to think about. And like I said, when we talk about long-term wealth impact, wildfires don't just create short-term damage, they affect long-term financial stability. And so it makes people, especially if you don't have insurance in place, it can really affect your long-term financial stability. So something to think about. Imagine someone who was trying to sell a house in the area, not necessarily just Brantley County, but close by in the area. If someone was in the middle of trying to make a real estate transaction, sell a house, maybe they were 2 weeks from closing, maybe they were a month away from making the deal happen, and all of a sudden these fires come, a buyer may have potentially backed out of a deal. If a buyer backed out of a deal due to the fires or people couldn't get to the closing because areas are blocked off, That means somebody else may have had to pay their mortgage payment or the bills or the light bill or the water bill or get the grass cut again because they didn't close out on the deal. They didn't close out on the land or the property. They couldn't get to the courthouse. The buyer backs out and says, you know what? I don't feel safe buying this property now. Now they're back having to foot the bill for the month of May. So the financial impact of these Georgia fires didn't just affect people locally, but it's affecting businesses, it's affecting deals, it's affecting transactions, it's affecting the real estate market. Because now, can you even sell the house at the same price that you once wanted to sell it before? Especially if the house is in the area. I'm not talking about a house that burned in the fire, but just a house in the surrounding areas. Why am I mentioning this on today? Because I believe, Coach Steele's Finance Training, I believe that there are going to be deals and opportunities to buy some real estate for a very low price that you normally wouldn't get it at. Yes, what am I saying? Financial impact of these Georgia fires. I believe people who have been in the middle of selling their houses in the area are going to have to make some adjustments on the price, which allows a buyer to come in and buy the property with some potential equity, depending on how the prices in the area of homes are adjusted due to the fires. You know, because of the fire, they may start appraising the houses at a different value because they might start being bought at a different value. So it's possible to find some deals and steals out here that might work to certain people's benefits. You know, if I could find some multifamily unit properties with a good deal, I'm interested in looking at something like that. But I just want you all to think about that. The financial impact of these Georgia fires, how they're affecting people being able to negotiate on selling their homes. Real estate agents, I wish I had a real estate agent tuning in that works the local area and see if they've even heard or felt the immediate impact of how this is affecting prices, or if homes are still selling as usual. Have there been setbacks on closings and things like that? So anyway, let's go a little bit further in here. Of course, we're going to have property values that may decline in fire-prone areas, insurance and rebuilding costs that reduce the net worth. And so as y'all are tuning in to Coach Steele's Finance Training, I appreciate it. If you can share the live, then that's good as well. If you share the live, if you can't, I understand. Also, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Coach Steele's Finance Training. We're talking about the impact of these Georgia fires and home buying and things like that. I believe the value of homes around this area are probably going to decrease a little. I believe the cost of a house to be able to buy it will decrease a little as well. People will be able to buy a home more affordable than they could have in Brantley County and surrounding areas. And if the value of homes go back up, then you may end up buying a house that has a good amount of equity in it based on the future projections of what these homes will be valued at. So anyway, insurance and rebuilding costs reduce the net worth. Savings get drained during recovery. So that's something I want you all to think about and prepare for when you're looking at all these sentimental things that you do want to take with you. When you're saying, oh, but I need the vacuum cleaner. Oh, but I need that TV that was sitting on the floor. Like, there's certain things that are sentimental, but it's going to cost you money to store those things. And as you're paying every month to store something, then it's taking money away from you being able to have to eat or things like that. So just keep that in mind when you're figuring out how to strategize for that emergency. So this can set families back years financially, especially if they were already living paycheck to paycheck. And we know most of Americans, I've done studies on this, showed you all. Well, I didn't do the study. I read the articles and the studies on this. About 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So 7 out of 10 people you see are struggling to make it month to month. We just don't talk about it much in America. But that is the norm, unfortunately. It's not a positive norm, but unfortunately, that's what's happening. So wildfires reveal a critical truth. Wealth is not just about income, ladies and gentlemen. Wealth is about protection preparation, and positioning yourself. Wealth is not just about your income. A part of having, obtaining, maintaining, keeping wealth is, are you protecting it properly? Do you have insurance? Are you preparing? Is your mindset prepared to have to make adjustments? And are you positioning yourself financially to have success, whether natural disasters happen or not? People who are financially prepared tend to have emergency savings. I want you all to keep this in mind. People who are financially prepared usually have emergency savings. They carry proper insurance coverage. They diversify income streams. Those three things. It's that simple. Start building up your emergency savings. That's what people do who are financially prepared. They carry proper insurance coverage because that's nothing to play with. You don't want tragedy to happen and you don't have insurance. And they diversify their income. They don't rely on one source of income because they know at the drop of a dime, something can happen and they need to be able to make an adjustment. If you focus on those three things and fortify yourself in those three areas, you will see great impact and great change in your mentality and your financial security, protection, and preparation and positioning. Those things will happen. And so as we talk about these impact of the Georgia fires and things that are happening, it's not necessarily a fun conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. One thing I did want to share with you all, one exciting thing that I wanted to talk about today, as you all are sharing this live for other people to see, I want to show you all a video. I told you all that I do, whether you call it missions work, ministry work in Cameroon, Africa, with an organization, Christ Evangelistic Mission, CEM. Those in the comment section, put CEM if you want to. You can spell it all the way out. Christ Evangelistic Mission. So that is the ministry that I oversee over in Cameroon, Africa, West Africa. And so when it comes to that ministry, there's a lot going on. Oh, there's so much going on. I used to tell everyone there were like 7 churches. And then a couple weeks ago, we ended up opening up another church. So there's 8 churches, and the team just went to go minister and evangelize and have a conversation in another village called Nango Madiba. And so stay tuned because there may be some great things going on there. You all also know on my Facebook page, you'll of course want the first pinned video you see on my Facebook page. It shows a city called Supe, where we are building a church in Supe. You see the cement blocks and the building that's going up, building up the walls in Supe. Now, there's another church in another village called Ile, I-L-E. So in the comment section, write I-L-E, Ile. So in Ile, the pastor there that is over that church in Ile is Pastor Isaiah. And so we're excited because we're building in Supe. We're getting ready to push forward in Nango Madiba with the evangelism and getting ready to start that ministry up over there. Building cement church in Supe, but in Ile, where Pastor Isaiah is, they're having church under like a wooden, I don't know how to describe it. It was a little wooden overhead that provided them just a little coverage. But we're making so much progress in Ile that now it's not a piece that they sit up under when it comes to service, but they are now expanding that wooden area, overhead area, and putting poles, columns in place. And so there's now a church being built in Ile with Pastor Isaiah as well. So we have the church project that is going forward in Supe that is being built, and we have the church project moving forward in Ile. So what I'm going to show you is just a video of what is going on in Ile, and let me see if I can share that with you all. As y'all look, I will share it on my screen. Let's see. Okay, let's see if I can do this out. Maybe not. Oh, I think it was working. There we go. Let me try it again. So, of course, that is the church in Ely. That is the wooden. Of course, you see how it's much more expanded now. And so that's what we're working on. This is the next project. And I'm excited the fact that we have two churches being built right now, one in Ely, one in Supe. So when I talk to you all about going to my Facebook page and not just following me on Facebook or being friends, but also clicking the subscribe button, there's a subscribe link. When you subscribe to my Facebook page, it's going to say, hey, subscribe Simon's Facebook page. It'll say 99 cents a month. And of course, when you pay that 99 cents a month, that 99 cents goes to Cameroon, Africa to help with building churches, building up ministries and things like that. So anybody who subscribes, anybody who gives uh, to the Facebook page, I appreciate it. It means a lot. And so I appreciate you all that support and those of you that continue to support. It means a lot. So we're doing a lot of good things, and I just like to show you all kind of where your money is going and what's happening. And we're going to continue to do updates. So as you tune in to Coach Steele's Finance Training, I like to put those updates and pictures for people to be able to see. And of course, let's see here, YouTube. If you ever want to see some more videos or information about the progress that's happening in post video, the YouTube channel as well, Coach Steele's Finance Training. Let's see if I can share my screen with you so you all can see that as well. Those of you that are tuning in now, and some of you may tune in later, and you'll see some of this. And feel free to leave your comments and your thoughts about on in Cameroon, Africa. If you have questions, feel free to ask questions, and I can sure enlarge the screen, and then I'll get up out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. There we go. You should be able to see bottom. You'll see two videos. Those videos are for the church in Supe, where we're building the cement. The first two side. There we go. And of course, feel free to go in there and watch those videos that just shows you some of the behind the scenes building in Supe. So As I mentioned before, we have 2 different projects going on, and I'm going to keep y'all updated on it. And like I said, subscribe to the Facebook page. Go ahead and do it, and you can help sow seeds into Cameroon. Have huge impact globally. Take that opportunity to be able to give to those that are less fortunate, to help those that can potentially never be able to help you. But God can use you internationally without you having to physically be there. Some of us can go, some of us can't go, but your money can go, your prayers can go forward. And so that's all we're asking for on today here on Coach Steele's Finance Training. I appreciate everybody tuning in and understanding those financial impacts of natural disasters and these Georgia fires, and how we have to do our best to prepare for the unexpected that can happen. Remember, those are 3 things that you need to do to make sure that you are financially prepared. Hopefully, you all remember those 3 things that you need to work on. If you forgot, remember, it's simple: have an emergency savings, carry proper insurance coverage, and diversify your income stream so you're not limited to just one. And you'll be all right. Appreciate